Now, let me introduce my guests to you, and then we get to the matters that we have to discuss. And joining us in the studio this morning, regular panelists, Abdul Malik Kweku Bako is the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. And as always, he's here with his dossier, bags of documents in front of him. Also, just by him is Kofi Bentel, private legal practitioner and vice president, Imani. Also, to my extreme left is Kojo Opong Nkrumah. He's MP of Fwasi Ayerebi and Deputy Minister of Information. He's also a lawyer. And Daniel Ashiama.
Yeah.
Okay, Daniel Ashiama is MP for Buem and Deputy Ranking Communications Committee of Parliament. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
You forgot to add that Kojo once sat where you were.
Yes, yes. He did. And we'll be joined on the phone later by Asa Nkoma, who is also a lawyer, and Daniel Yao Domelovo, who is the Auditor General, as they begin the process to recover all monies stolen from the states. Now, we start first with the vetting of the new Chief Justice. I think it's right to just say the new Chief Justice because there's no point in saying anything else will happen. Yeah. Now, let's watch and listen to a couple of the things that Justice Sophia Akuffo, had to say when she appeared before Parliament's Appointments Committee yesterday.
Who subscribes to the Ghana School of Law being scrapped. It's a profession, and you need to learn to become a professional. And at the moment, the only institution providing that or authorized to provide that is the Ghana School of Law. Once again, if it is felt that faculties of law should be able to should become professional training centers, then the law will have to be changed. Concerning advertising by lawyers, that's not so much of a judicial issue as a regulatory issue. The General Legal Council regulates the bar, and it regulates the bar under the Legal Profession Act and the Ethics and Code of Conduct that is applicable to lawyers. If what you want is my view on advertising on social media, personally, I'm a 67-year-old woman. I've been at the bar since 1973, 74, something like that. And I believe that dignity of the bar is as important as dignity of the judiciary. And the idea of lawyers touting themselves on social media is personally distasteful to me. But that aside, the law is there clearly against touting because it is considered an improper conduct on the part of a lawyer. With the contempt case, contempt of court is not intended to gag anybody. Contempt of courts, its focus is on the protection of the sanctity and integrity of the judicial process. It's intended to protect the process itself, not even the individuals who were offended. No, it is to protect the institution, because, excuse me, honorable legislators, at the end of the day, it is when the justice system breaks down, that's when a nation breaks down. And if there are countries without legislators, they manage. There are countries with dubious executive structures, they manage. So long as there's something they can call the judiciary. If there's no judiciary, then we are back in the jungle. Thank you. The importance is what you do about the negative impressions. Some of it you address by making your processes and procedures more open and more known, better known to the public, so that it does not seem like you're working some hocus pocus or some magic. Also, it is important that where discipline of the internal players being the judiciary, or for that matter, the judicial service staff, where disciplinary issues arise, those also need to be dealt with without any favoritism and without any selectivity, and in an open and transparent manner, so that those outside know that something is being done, and those inside know that something is being done and will be done if they also breach any of the rules.
That's Justice Sophia Akuffo. And joining us on the phone lines is Ace Nkuma, who will be part of this first segment of the discussion, and subsequently will rejoin us as we discuss the victory that Occupy Ghana secured for Ghana in the Supreme Court, the orders of the court on the Auditor General and audit process. Ace, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning, and thanks for calling.
Right. Now, Ace, I start with you, and let's look first of all at the process itself. What was appalling for you? Let's deal with those first. What was appalling? I will admit to you, I left court around 2 p.m. and I joined the discussion. I was not exactly impressed about some of the stuff I heard.
Well, we have a procedure in place. This is for will or for woe. I think that we will do ourselves some favor if we check not just the existence of the approval process, but what goes into it. So I'm trying to be very diplomatic. And so, yes, this was not everything that...
Can you try avoiding being diplomatic? That's where we want to start.
It was not every question which I felt was really relevant or was deep and sufficiently searching. I'd have expected debate on her firm judicial opinion, the structure between substantive law and procedural law. Mm-hmm. Because one of the themes of the court now, in charges led by people like Justice Dr. Dateban, was to say, let's emphasize on the substantive law and let's be careful about procedural law coming in to sometimes affect substantive justice.
Right.
And so, but after Justice Dateban left the court, you can see that the court is beginning to shift to checking up again whether the procedural law has been complied with under certain circumstances. Now, that balance between substantive and procedural law is a critical theory of justice, which affects ultimately some of the work that the court does. But so one would expect that at such a critical event, there's more focus on judicial mentality, judicial attitudes, and stuff like that. But somehow those are aspects of it that I found missing. I would say I found it appalling, but that's some of the stuff that I thought was missing in the discussion.
Okay, hold on briefly, Kojo. What did you observe that made you cringe? Ask yourself, well, I'm a member of parliament, but what's going on here?
Well, Samson, good morning, and good morning to the colleagues in the studio and to Ace on the phone line and to your viewers and listeners. Something that made me cringe, I don't recall. I think that all in all, the exercise was a decent one. This is a lady whose qualifications are not in doubt. Her legal opinions, sometimes even if you look at all of us who are sitting around the table and you ask yourself whether or not you're even qualified to ask her questions, you may feel intimidated if you read some of her opinions. I was impressed more with her answers because she very quickly and clearly skirted around the issues that were sub judice. She skirted around the issues that even some of her own rulings.
They're really about issues that were sub judice. Almost too many things were sub judice, and so she couldn't deal with. Sub judice means matters pending in court, so she couldn't deal with.
Yeah.
And then you find questions also that her response were that these are likely to come before the court. Yes. So what else was she going to talk about?
Well, but that's the nature of the job. That's the nature of the job. She is in a particular position where, first of all, she's a member. I mean, and the fact that she's Chief Justice doesn't mean that she's no longer a Justice of the Supreme Court. She's still a Justice of the Supreme Court. She doesn't want to make comments about matters that are yet to come before her or even pending before her. So I think at a point it became obvious that some of those specific questions were questions that we should probably even stay away from.
No, I didn't
all
like
over the
that.
world.
Particularly matters that are yet to come, because you're supposed to give a guidance, policy-wise, as to how you're going to focus the court.
I disagree. All over the world, you would hear more when Chief Justices are being vetted, questions about philosophy, questions about their judicial philosophy, their philosophy in restructuring the courts. And that was another area, for me, the biggest area that I took away. The fact that she's very focused on ensuring that we have high quality justices and lawyers, high integrity in the courts. She talked about speed. She talked about technology. For me, these are about the four major pivots that I took away and which I'll be looking forward to during her administration.
Great. We'll expand on that. Kofi, I heard you on Newsnight. Was it Newsnight or Top Story?
Yeah.
And you said it was impressive. Okay, so let's move beyond impressive. Let's look at what was not impressive for you.
Okay, so actually I agree with both Eze and Kojo, but I differ a bit. You see, this thing about it may come before the court, and therefore I cannot speak about it. I think that, just like they were saying, that forum where you talk or ask questions of a Chief Justice should be a place where you interrogate their philosophy and their jurisprudential slant. And I'd like to compare that to the US, where every justice of the Supreme Court in the US is known in terms of their slant on the big issues that can turn the society.
Right.
Abortion rights and this and that and that. And that is very clarifying. So for me, the matter hasn't come. But why is it a problem for us to know what your views and philosophies are concerning this? Now, because we don't discuss these things openly, I didn't have much of an expectation, for the vetting process. Because what are we going to talk about? Okay, I would have liked a situation where we really put it up and say, and this question that is raised about the substantive and procedural, it's a big issue for me. I had many debates in law school about that thing, that justice must be more substantial than procedural, but that's another matter. Okay, but if we're going to go into these areas, then we'll say this vetting didn't cut it. But personally not expecting those questions to come, the heavy issues of philosophy and jurisprudence and, your personal slant and things, I found the process very useful. Questions like how will she deal with the issues of empaneling justices? It has been very important in this country for many years. And the suggestion from Parliament was that, would you publish a paper on that? So we get a sense of the principles. That was profound for me. And I was very impressed that question came up because it is something that we need to deal with.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, I think a lot could have been desired, but we have not cut ourselves as a nation or even as parliament into a certain mold where we will go into those weightier matters, okay, that will really make such a vetting, exciting for people like
I go to Kweku before I come to Honorable Daniela Sherman. But, Ace, some issue is being raised here about matters that are before the court and so she can speak, and matters that are, she says, are likely to come before the court. And Kofi Bentil suggests that why not? We ought to know where you stand on some issues, like happens in the U.S. You know, when a lawyer and an advocate is going before the U.S. Supreme Court, he knows which of the judges to address on which specific issue and which judge he should not waste his time, debating on a particular issue. Why is that not the same in our system?
Let's look at it this way. If we had dived more into her judicial philosophy and gotten from her and indicated as to whether she's conservative in her legal philosophy, whether she's liberal in her legal philosophy, whether she believes that the Supreme Court has the power to make law or simply interpret the Constitution. These are key things that one of the leading countries that goes through this process is the United States. These are key things that you find in the vetting process. We just watched one, a month or so ago. It was deep, it was searching, but I do not recall that specific matters, which are either pending or will be pending, were thrown at the candidate, the nominee. So let's harken back to it. The theory of it is because we've had for some time quite an activist Supreme Court, which says we don't see the law, so we made one on the basis of public policy. And
she confirmed that comes naturally in their work.
Yes, but there are some judges. The more conservative view is that no, we don't have the power to think that there's a lacuna. There's a gap, and so we need to fill it. We will throw that back to Parliament. That is the conservative view of it. A more liberal and activist court gets into more of the judicial realism theory of it. So one would have expected some of that to come out, and with that, you don't even need to ask a certain question. How about the case between A and B? Then she said, "Look, I can't speak to it because it's either pending or it's likely to pend." But it's a general or a more fundamental philosophical question. We can discern from that what her thinking is likely to be if it comes up. You see, that's what I'm saying. So that maybe we can be too theoretical about a theory that one would have expected them to pull from her. And she has a lot of theory.
Okay.
She does have a lot of it.
Right.
That is one area that I felt was lacking.
Right.
But the specific one, I think she was right in saying that, I can't speak.
I see. Thank you. I'm coming to Kweku to ask Kweku whether you thought that some use this platform to attempt to do some politics unnecessarily. And she appears to have a certain attitude towards addressing some of those questions. But when I come back to Ace, I want Ace to be thinking about this. He made certain comments, including that a judge is not worth his judicial oath or his position as a judge if you can't keep fidelity to the law, but you want to pander to the appointing authority. What you think that will mean for her administration as the Chief Justice? Yes, Kweku.
Well, let me confess, I didn't have the chance, the opportunity, the time and space to watch the programs. I'm a bit handicapped.
Okay.
What I've picked up, but I've picked tidbits of news reports,
right,
and some playbacks, courtesy your station and one or two. So to be honest with you, I'm handicapped. I was distracted by some domestic challenges, and I had no choice but to deal with those challenges.
Right.
Yes, and I've been reading the Daily Graphic and things. The politicization, I think it was on Joy, you played back that part where she was talking about extreme politicization. Yes, and I got the impression that, you see, there are people who think, and we discussed this last week here, a little bit of it, that if you are appointed by a particular president or administration, then you might end up pandering to that particular administration or president. But we showed that in our history, judicial history, We've had examples where people who were even political functionaries, but subsequently became justices of the courts, doing things that went against those administrations that they were associated with. And there are many such examples. I remember recalling Mr. J.E.K. Akins, who was Attorney General and Secretary for Justice under the PNDC. And if you recall his role, his judgment, or he was part of the majority, the 31st December as a public holiday. That was a classic case where he didn't go along. He was even part of the PNDC thing, but he didn't go along with what was being canvassed by then Attorney General or Deputy Attorney General Martin Amidu in court. That this lady herself, she was appointed by Rawlings onto the Supreme Court.
That's so.
And then subsequently she's been appointed as CJ by Nana Akuffo. Now you check her track record. She's given various judgments that didn't go in one direction. So it's the law first. They are faith to the oath they swear, as well as the law and the advocacy, of course, that comes in the court. So to be honest with you, I share the view that she made. But we've done that over and over. We've done that. Let's be honest. If you recall the fast track court case, the constitutionality or otherwise of the fast track case, when it was passed, and how political elements took on the Supreme Court, thinking it had been manipulated, and particularly when the review process was activated, and it became 6-5 instead of the 5-4. We all know what happened in this country. There were lawyers. There are people who know the law, senior practitioners of the law, who knew that a review process entails an additional, addition of some judges. They knew that. You had 9 sitting the first panel. Obviously, it couldn't be 10. It had to be 11. One judge had to be brought in, and yet it was distorted and bastardized to the extent that it was as if there was no provision or even precedent for that. Indeed, there had been precedents as to how the review process is an additional is added in order to open up. And then you have to look for whether there's a fundamental error in terms of the judgment, the earlier one. But all this was, and that was extreme politicization of a particular judgment of the Supreme Court. And it affected many of those judges on. They were now categorized into political camps. So
similar thing happened with the petition, election petition.
Yes, I agree. And meanwhile, if you go back and you check some of those who sat on the petition and what their earlier judgments had been, Atuguba, if you go and check that fast track constitutional thing where he stood, it was on the side of the eventual majority. So it's difficult that it's fair for her to raise that issue and ask all of us to depoliticize. And I was happy she said she's not talking political, she was talking politicization. There's an extension, between the two. Okay. So to that extent, I think I didn't watch, and I'm so handicapped, but overall, I think she did well listening to the news items that came out.
All right.
Yeah.
What were your observations?
Oh, thank you very much. I think I thank Joy FM for this platform. I think today is my first day of coming here. And yesterday, before even the vetting started, I was at one of the media stations, and I said, it is going to be very simple and straightforward. The other person was saying, oh, it's not just going to be simple. And I said, look, Ghana is our country, and institutions must work. And if institutions must work, the government of the day must make sure that the respective executives or heads of every institution is in place. So if for all this while we are going by, or a month or two, we are going by acting Chief Justice, to me, it is good, but it's not good. The right thing must be done. And the hour has come for somebody to be vetted and sworn in. So I don't look forward for any problem for her, but people must have that right to ask questions. And such questions were asked. Some, she was a bit evasive, like we're talking about politics, about the Munche tree issues that she felt uncomfortable. But to me, those are the things she should expect on that very day, that where she's going to be the regulator of the laws or the courts in this country.
But those asking the questions to you'll expect that they will research. If the questions are about law, they'll consult lawyers and not come there and demonstrate, excuse me, quite significant ignorance, even in the questions that they pose.
I may say that it is not about ignorance here. Somebody would like to hear what you answer to this question that maybe at that particular time you were in the shoes. It is about vetting.
Give you an example. Lower courts, as we call them, do not have the power to invoke themselves to punish for contempt. Okay? It is the superior courts that do. Now, you have questions that are coming and concentrated on Delta Force and why the Muntie punishment, the way it went. Does it mean that the lower courts, as it were, will also do what the Supreme Court did? Because the Attorney General is not going after the people to cite them for contempt. So will the judges there also call the people and punish them for contempt?
Really?
Yes, those were questions. That got a lot of emphasis.
Yeah, but to make it clear to everybody, I'm not a lawyer. But I'm using my general mind that we kneel to the benefit of a general Ghanaians. Because these are questions that people, as you move along the street, you go to your constituencies, they'll be asking. Somebody who is even asking these questions knows the right thing. But because we like to actually satisfy the questions that are coming around, we will pose it to you at that particular time.
Serious about that?
No, sometimes it does happen, but that is not the right. That's why I'm saying that. That is why I'm saying that.
Okay.
To me, she did well yesterday, and questions that she has answered, and I will expect her as she moves into office. I'm sure by Monday the report will come to Parliament. She'll be sworn in Monday, God willing, because it has been signaled already. Things that his own people, colleagues, complain about, moving. Transfers or positions that they should get, and it has been waiting for all this while, and then a fast adjudication of cases to allay some fears or that will not allow the citizenry to become so mischievous. I think those are the things that she has to look at. All in all, she has done very well.
Okay. Kofi, you want to say something? Do that in some 1 minute, and then, guys, get ready with your specific areas that you want to emphasize on, because Kojo has pointed to specific areas, particularly with technology and how she wants to advance the system. And then I'll get Ace to also tell us his expectation as an active practitioner of the courts. He will tell us his expectation. But before that, he will answer what my question I posed to him, what he thinks are the implications of what she says about who a judge worthy of his calling is, and how that will, inform her administration. Yes.
You just made a point about maybe there should have been a bit more consultation with people in the system, maybe lawyers or so. And it just, lit something in my head. I really think in future the lawyers in Parliament maybe should take a bit of a lead on that, because if we're going to move into discussing those weightier issues, I was worried about making this a lawyers' forum. But honestly, there are really difficult issues that we have to deal with, and it may not be amenable to understanding by every other person. This issue of the directive principles of state policy, whether they are justiciable or not, the role of the state. Somebody asked about whether the state should provide employment or something like that.
Yes.
There are certain these are the issues of our land. So maybe in future there should be a bit of consultation, with people who are thinking in this way. So because this is the only chance we'll get to quiz.
But I respond to that because there was a lot of consultation.
There was.
If I just may very quickly interrupt.
He's suggesting by some of the issues he raised that there are answers to questions that are being put.
Precisely. And the point I'm trying to make is this. You notice that in the vetting of the previous Chief Justice, the framework was a bit different. It was literally the committee of the whole, not the select committee. In this instance, first, the select committee for appointment was empaneled,
right,
and then there was a co-option of chairmen of specific committees of relevance to legal and judicial matters.
Right.
And you also notice that the seniors on the committees asked more of the philosophical and weighty questions. Mostly.
Brilliant questions from Dominic Ayeni and
Mostly.
Yeah.
It's a learning curve also for, I think, some of the younger ones, so that you can take a cue from what the seniors are doing, and not necessarily. I don't share the view that because the majority of people will want some, excuse me to say, banal issues discussed, that we should lower the whole standard to that point. I think that we should rather lift it up.
We should lift it up
in that vein.
It's a unique opportunity.
Now, so it's first to my question about what you think her posture and to the whole administration of justice will be, because she has an idea or a philosophy of who is worthy of that calling as a judge. And then what are your expectations of the improvement and things you want to see in the system?
Well, first off, Justice Akuffo came to the bench directly from private practice, having had an extremely successful private practice. In fact, at the time, it was one of the few practices that had female leaders. So, and it was a practice she had set up on herself, by herself. And so literally, she got in there with precious little judicial experience. But you can see how much she has acquired in that process. One of the things that happens is the demeanor of a judge. Because for those of us in private practice, we're used to the fight aspect of it. But once you get onto the bench, you're quickly supposed to learn and apply that kind of demeanor. Now, the question is that what led you to the court? It's often by an appointment.
Right.
For courts below the Court of Appeal, the High Court, the appointments don't go through Parliament. You don't see the quote political part of it. But as judges get educated, there has been a view that a judge would pander to the wishes of the appointing authority, the specific appointing authority that went there. In fact, some have derided, stated that as for Ghana, all philosophy is reduced to MPP and NDC. So people have laughed at us that when we go to your bench, we are not thinking about the political philosophy or otherwise of your judges, but whether the person was appointed by NDC and MPP. In some cases, that luxury hasn't worked. In some cases, it has been quite apparent, even if it's not that obvious. But happens is this: from the moment you receive that warrant to sit in that high office, you ought to be true to yourself as to the fact that you are there to do justice and not just give the appointing authority what he or she or it wants at every time.
After all, you have security of tenure.
Yeah. Absolutely. You can never be removed. But if you then still pander, but at that point you can't be removed. You can't be elevated. The only possible elevation is you can't Chief Justice. So nothing stops you from speaking your mind and doing what you have to do. And on that, it was spot on. Justice Aiken showed that he was such a person. And now let's ask a question. It is not the MPP government that appointed Justice Akuffo. It was the NDC under Mr. Jerry Rawlings. Yet she has shown her independence when she has ruled against the NDC. She does. When she has to rule against the NPP, whose flag bearer now was the one who took her through the period of cutting her teeth when she became a judge.
A lawyer.
When she has to rule against them, she had a lawyer. When she has to rule against them, she has. So I think that so far, she knows what she's talking about, that I'm very independent. And trust me, I haven't seen a more independent person in my life.
Okay.
Right? So she believes that that sense of independence is the one which should drive your philosophy and not who puts you on the bench. I completely agree with her on that.
How is she going to ensure that that permeates?
Well, she can't dictate to judges what they should write or say. And so all that's going to happen, and let's agree, well, once you go to a multi-panel bench, it's almost like a lottery. Some will agree with you, some will not agree with you. If you are quote unquote lucky and the majority go with you, you won. If you don't get any of the votes, or you get a minority view, sorry, this is the end of the matter. The matter is gone.
Okay.
She cannot say that she's going to look at the MPP state, assuming there's even anything like that on the bench, and then empanel to create a balance. That doesn't work. But I also do not expect a Chief Justice to give us a formula for empaneling. That would be low. That would be terrible. So I think that whether she's scared of the issue or spoke to it directly, she cannot tell us that that is what she's going to do. But that would be so wrong. And I don't think she'll do that.
Right. Any specific expectations of immediate results of change in the system as you go to court on Monday?
They should fix the air conditioners.
They are doing that. They are doing that.
It is as thin as that.
They should relax the legal dress
Put
code.
in glass windows so that there's very little natural aeration, and the air conditioner is down, and we're wearing these dark suits, and we're sweating in the courtroom to do our work. This is 2017. If we can't have a functioning air conditioning system, let's create courts that are positioned in such a way that we'll get natural aeration. To me, sometimes it's about very simple things like that. But the other thing, which is quite autistic, the quality of the courts, the court buildings,
right,
and the quality of where the judges live, their residential quarters. I would want judges who are doing literally a thankless job, but putting their names and lives and reputation on the line every day to be looked after in some ways better than there is now. So look, you can go to a court outside Accra, and the judge doesn't have his own private washroom. The magistrate doesn't have their own private washroom. We need to look at some of these things throughout the country and provide good working tools for them. To me, that is the best thing. For me personally, fix those issues.
Okay. Thank you, Yates. Could you, take us through, you had 3 or 4 particular themes that you wanted to focus on, and I realized that you're more, focused on technology as well.
Well, so like I mentioned, actually about 4 major themes. And initially when Joe Sewusu asked her to broadly state what her vision of the judicial service will be, she talked of high quality justices and lawyers, which brings into question the manner of training of lawyers and continuous training of justices. She talked about integrity, which will deal with all of these issues of corruption. She herself has been mentioned across board, as somebody who is thought to be of very high integrity. She talked of delays as being one of her biggest frustrations herself, and hinted that she wants to see a lot more speed. And then she again talked about, technology. So these 4 things are things that, we will all be looking forward to as, may I say, pillars of her tenure. Now, if you look at her background, she has a corporate background. She has a strong technology background herself. She's also been involved in a lot of ADR issues.
Right.
We are also at a time where, may I say, we're trying to move our economy to a point where it's more efficient to do business, it's easier to do business, returns on investments are higher. I would really want to say under her tenure, these things that she talks about find reflection in how the judicial system is reformed. And it's, for me, as simple as that. Of course, it will not be short-term as on Monday morning, seeing things happening in the courts, because change and reforms take a bit of time. But I think that in the period that she has, we should see some significant improvement in speed, technology, integrity.
Justice Wood has
quality.
done, I think, the biggest
set of
as far as ADR is concerned, alternative dispute resolution, formalizing the system and integrating it into the court system is concerned.
Yes.
She will be credited as the one who has given it the biggest boost.
Yes.
Now, even in the presence of that, and having judges being pulled to be minded to encourage ADR, to encourage a lot of business, as you say, and corporate staff, you still find that there's a lot of, people are a lot more driven to litigation.
True.
So what will she have to do?
And she talked about it yesterday, that it's obvious, like you have stated, that in spite of that, a lot more people are drawn into this winner-takes-all litigation process. Those were her words. And then she talks about the fact that this, therefore, becomes her challenge.
Okay.
That after this very firm foundation that has been laid, if the evidence is that a lot more people still want to come to the litigation process, then the question is, what is the problem? What are the gaps? And she talks about the fact that she's open to at least a study to understand it, and so that we can make some inroads there. So we would like to see all of these things reflect. I wish I will.
Right. And Kofi, Kojo mentions speed that she talks about. In the same breath that she speaks about speed, somebody mentions to her, justice delayed is justice denied. And she's quick to remind them of the other side of that, hackneyed expression, that justice hurried is justice buried.
Yeah.
So is she really committed to speed then?
She is committed to the fidelity of the law and justice. Okay, so depending on which side you are on, you want justice to be, slowed down and done deliberately, or you want it to be sped up and then done a certain way. But let's get it. The judge in the middle must be minded to give justice. So we are all interested in speed and everything, but we will not sacrifice the fidelity, of the process for that. Those who make haste make waste. You can't finish the process and ask yourself, what did I get? So I think I like that answer. We will all like a bit more speed, but we want justice, better justice. She calls it quality justice.
Right.
And it takes a whole lot of things. I want a couple of things, and I think they are possible. Okay, they're a bit more, some that are a bit esoteric. But this thing about transcription, I've said it over and over again.
Even those that are esoteric, I want us to hear you. And I know yours includes what we wear.
Lawyers love their robes, and that's okay. And I think we should keep it. But there must be an alternative to it. Okay? Look, I have seen a lawyer almost collapse from heat, and he was wet. You wear 7 pieces of clothing, and you hear the problem is was citing. Sometimes when the air conditions don't work. And you can be turned away if you don't have those robes.
They tell you you're naked.
Yeah, they tell you you're naked, they can't see you, they can't hear you. I'm not saying we should scrap it altogether. What I'm saying is that there should be an alternative to it. Let's have some designer come up with 2, 3, 4 different things that we can do. This Friday wear thing, I'm not saying we should wear Friday wear to court, but I'm saying there can be a version for lawyers. Let's start thinking about that. The transcription and technology thing is important. We have the system now. It is not working. It costs quite a bit. I think Justice Sophia Akuffo should make it one of the first things she will do to get the court transcription system working. It actually affects the delivery of justice. You know it, I know it. You are standing in court, you have issues to canvass and argue. You have to speak one sentence at a time. It affects your trend of thought and everything. The speed of the process and everything.
And this new building, we understand that the technology in there was made to allow for automatic transcription. Whilst you speak and it's being recorded, it will automatically transcribe. So that's what you're saying should be one of the major jobs.
It should be because we have it. Look, those of us who are a bit technology inclined, there are softwares right now, speech to text.
Yes.
So it's possible. And I think we should take it very seriously. What I'm saying is that we have not taken it as seriously as we should. And I think it affects the delivery of justice. We should have a whole department that makes sure those things are working. So you can have this thing. In other jurisdictions, when you finish court and you get back to your hotel or your transcript is in your email.
It's likes to talk about that.
It's crucial. It's crucial. So I beg the Chief Justice to work very hard on that. And then the court
somehow, in some of these same courts, some are able to produce you the result you are talking about.
In some
of the courts. I mean, go to some of the human rights courts.
Yes.
You finish your case. By the afternoon, if you apply for the record, you will get it same day on the spot.
I say you are leading me into temptation because now you are going to force me to talk about how some people are able to get results and others are not able to get results. I have been in certain courts, judgments have been given, we needed the reports to go and do certain things. And I won't say what I have to say, but you have all kinds of unnecessary frustrations and you have to do all kinds of things to get your stuff out.
That's because it's not automated.
It's not just not be. In fact, if they want to give it to you, they can give it to you.
No. What I'm saying is that the reason for which you have this system where I've been in court sometimes where you are speaking and you literally have to correct the person who is, you know, typing. And then you have others who are so efficient that you can get it at the end of the day. But I'm saying that it's because the process is still literally manual. What you are talking about is that if we're able to get to this full throttle point where we have, for example, software that automates speech to text, once it's automated, then we don't have to have this.
What about the quality of those who are behind the PCs?
That's another issue.
So, you know, that's all part of the reform that we would expect.
My view is that, look, the quality, I think, is there. Because I have seen situations where when they want to give it to you, they'll give it to you. But then they'll give you an excuse and say, it's not ready. You can't have it today. And they have chosen not to give it to you until you do certain things.
Right. So when you're talking about automation, does it include a situation where you will not be told your docket is lost? So bring photocopies of what you have on your file?
Absolutely. Court record systems. That also includes the court schedule, you travel all the way to Kumasi and you're told there will be no sitting. And I have said often that, look, we have emails, okay? If they want, every lawyer in Ghana, we are under 10,000, can give an email, can give a phone number, okay? And look, we are sounding funny, but it's not difficult. Where if you have a case, the people on the case, by filing, you put those things in there, you are put into a system. If the thing won't come on, you can be sent a message.
Okay.
It's not too difficult. And look, we are paying money for these things. Our clients are paying a lot of money.
Right.
You travel all the way, and you have to travel all the way back. And the client has to pay the lawyer, apart from the risk and other things that have happened.
Right.
The last one is the structures, the court structures. It's terrible. Sometimes you go outside Accra, the space you have to sit in to dispense justice in all these ropes and things, it just doesn't speak well of us. And it's not money we lack.
Honorable Shama, she speaks about being able to be in the desert, have somebody elsewhere, not within the same place, and still be able to conduct a case.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about what she intends to do, and how is that really possible? We know elsewhere, some of the things we go to court practically to do, some people don't have to. They do it on phone.
Yeah.
Some of the motions are done by just picking a phone and arguing it. Here, you can, and some lawyers posted on Facebook this week. They got up in the morning, took a flight to Takoradi, only to be told that the court is not sitting. Has to catch a flight and come back. The client has paid for all of that, and they have risked their lives. Maybe there's no even insurance for their travel and all of these things. Why must that be happening in this day?
All that you've said right now points the finger to some best practices somewhere that we talk about e-law.
Right.
Where technology must be applied to our justice system. And when we are able to do that, we'll be able, like she said, somebody will be in the forest, be able to work well in the desert or anything of that sort. But before all these things will happen, where you have to have an environment where the e-law needs to apply, the infrastructure must be there. She did mention about one district, one court. Get me right. For me, I played with her. Those districts that have the courts already, I think what they need is maybe to rehabilitate them, to let them go. But it is very true that every district must have a court. Because like you have just said, how can somebody travel from Tamale and come to court in Kumasi or let's say Sunyani? So the court system must be so close to Ghanaians so that justice may be seen delivered to them. Be accessible to them. So to me, I love that. But in the case of technology, even before that will be possible, there are some old statutes in the books that need to be cleaned and then make things simple. Because now we are going to deal with technology. Right. You cannot be sitting down like our colleagues say, writings and long, shall I say, a script for a case. How are we going to sanitize this legal environment to make it very simple that if I know I pick somebody's goggle that does not belong to me, you can even go to the system, even though you hire a law, the system have already told you your punishment. So you take a lawyer to help you in that case, even though you get your punishment.
Right.
So to me, that is what
we are wrapping up on this subject. Because she also mentioned many times money, because that's what it comes down to, as far as she's concerned. For example, they are seeking to get 30% of their IGF and to use. Haruna Idrisu suggested that she may even go beyond that, and they are likely to get that because the former president did indicate that they were likely to get this. It boils down to money. How much of that will affect what she seeks that we think is the ideal that ought to happen?
Well, you know, I recall, and I have the publication here, 2013-2014 annual report of the Judicial Service. I think this was an event where Chief Justice Georgina Wood presided over, and she launched the legal service year. And there's a vision that they have put out there. It's a 5-year strategic plan. I'm sure you know about it, and that's a copy of it which I'm holding here. And they intend doing various things. I believe this Chief Justice is part of that vision. She was very much part of that whole structure. So I think the best thing is continuity. That's what she should do now. Consolidate the reforms and the achievements of the last Chief Justice and perhaps build on it. That's the best way of...
You have not been excited that the Supreme Court gives very important judgments that they give maybe on a Thursday, and you're looking to have a copy to read and to come to Newsfile, and it's not available until the next weekend.
Yes, but it's all part of the vision. It's all part of this plan. If you take a look at this...
President is giving an example that the Human Rights Court too, you get it the same day.
Yes, so it is a matter of harmonizing. It's a matter of spreading that capacity. That's what it is. It means that it's not we have an uneven process. So it's a matter of making sure that you get all even up. That's what I think. But if you look at this vision, they've itemized or categorized what they intend to do. You have the information and communication technology, what they intend doing. And I just want to read a letter. You said we will continue to modernize and infuse efficiency into our work through the intervention of ICT. Since January 2014, cash collection activities in the courts at the head office and its environs have been successfully automated. This process of automation is to be extended to the courts in Tema and outlying areas and later to Kumasi and Takoradi. It takes money, I agree, but it must first have a vision driving it. You go in, they talk about infrastructure, the way of the courts room complex. Then they have training for judges and staff. I don't think this Chief Justice has to reinvent the wheel. She doesn't have to. She just has to continue with the work that has already been put in place and is being done. If you finish that part, then you can build on it. You know, that's the way I see it. But money, the judiciary, I don't really know exactly what happens. They make their own budget, don't they?
Yes,
before
they
present it
that is so.
to the Ministry of Finance. Yeah, it's a matter of getting the executive committed, legislature and executive committed to delivering on that. But I needed one clarification from Kojo. I didn't get you clear. You were saying what happened this time was new in terms of the vetting process?
No, I'm saying that
the panel.
We had to, there was an earlier submission that they needed to have more consultation. And I'm saying that you recall that for the vetting of Georgina Wood, it was literally done with a committee of the whole, even though... No. So you recall they did it in the main chamber of parliament.
Yeah, maybe that the new angles are bringing in some other...
Yes.
Yeah, but it was an appointments committee that did the vetting of Georgina Wood.
And in this instance, they co-opted chairpersons and I think ranking members of some of the relevant committees on the judiciary and legal matters.
I get the clarification, but it wasn't the committee of the whole.
In the first one.
Yeah,
it was in the main chamber, but not the committee of the whole.
Yeah.
It was in the main chamber.
Okay.
But to the point of bringing in some more views, this time there was even that more effort.
I agree.
And you notice that the seniors, I think, reflected a bit more of that. And it's a learning platform for some of
so
them.
it
was a good exercise.
Right. Now, let me share some of your comments, like you say, with the rest of the world. Now, this one is coming from Musa in Kumasi. Musa Bato in Kumasi says, I hope and pray the new CJ will live up to the expectations and work hard to keep the reputation of her new office intact and try as a matter of urgency to use her office to fight corruption because it looks like the executive authority is not ready to fight the canker. Ata Imoro in Wellensi says that Justice Sophia Akuffo proved that she is well cooked for the task. My expectation, therefore, is that she will go the extra mile to restore public confidence in the judiciary. Ibrahim Kopa in Tamale says that to a large extent, a significant number of the vetting committee did very well in their lines of questioning. Okay, I've just lost that text. I'll get back to it. Some are saying that there are still some outmoded laws, including the regulation that does not allow lawyers to advertise, and that she must ensure that that is dealt with. This is Opening Akrofi sending that one in. Okay, There is Sofo Yamusa in Kumbungu. He says that I think that Her Ladyship Justice Sophia Akuffo, like the former Chief Justice, is capable of bringing major reforms to the institution of the judiciary, even if she was given a year, just a year. Okay, thanks for all of those your comments. So that's where we wrap up on this, unless you have something you wanted to, yeah.
Is that, you see, when you go to the human rights courts, you get the result there and then, or that
very one court.
One court.
Human rights
court
two.
Courts two you get, but the normal or the other one you don't get maybe. Now this is what I'll plead with the new CJ coming, that this is what breeds some bad perception in people. That why is it that when I go here I get the result and the other I don't?
Individual initiative.
Individual initiative. But
they
Ghanaians
all have the same resources.
Yes.
In fact, the point I wanted to make for time is that I think it is the work ethic of that particular judge. He will make you work. The judicial service is very heavily staffed.
Okay.
So I think it's not just money. It's management style. And it's about requiring that they do it. I don't think some of the judges push the staff enough because there's all kinds of situations going on there. But it can happen in one place. Therefore, it's not just money.
But really, it's not happening only in one place. In some of the courts, you can get this kind of speed delivered.
Cut across.
Now, Francis says that bureaucracy is cumbersome because of the system. The handlers deliberately slow it down for personal monetary gain. We take a break here and return to go to the Auditor General and find out how the Auditor General is going to assist us get back stolen money, and also find out why you seem to have some reservations about towing, cars that have been abandoned on the roads that are killing up to 20% of, responsible for 20% of the road crashes we have in the country. We'll be right back.